And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
I've never really understood people's obsession with the sport of golf. It just doesn't seem that interesting to me. The idea of it sounds fascinating, but the actual playing the game, the way everyone's super quiet when people play and do the polite claps, the kind of pretentiousness it looks like sometimes in golf, and I understand that not all of that's true. However, golf does seem to translate good to a computer game and or board game, and yet there's very few good board games about golf. This doesn't seem to help the fact that golf games don't seem to want to make themselves look interesting. Dosh Board Golf here doesn't look like it's an interesting game at all. When you open it up, the pieces and the board, it looks really lackluster. Let's see if it is. Here's the board, and on the board there's going to be 9 holes. There's the tee-off area for each, so here's the tee-off for number 2, and then here's the hole for number 2. And you're trying to get, obviously, your ball from one to the other. Each player has a disc that shows where their ball is, and as the ball lands, you'll place the new one somewhere and then take your other one off the board. And you're trying to score a typical golf score. Each player is going to keep track of their score on a sheet here, and they're going to be using a set of clubs. Now, if you're playing the basic game, and hear me out here, the rule book doesn't do a great job always at differentiating which rules are basic and which rules are advanced and which rules are expert. So I'm going to go over kind of different rules from all the different sets. But if you're playing a basic game, you use the same set of cards, or you can each use your own set of cards. You have 2 putters, 2 mids, 2 drivers, and 2 max drivers. And they're actually different between the two. So, for example, you can see the yellow and the blue putters here are similar, but not quite the same. Neither of the blue putters is going to be the same. You'll see a whole pile of numbers on each of these. This tells you the overall rating. So this one's going to hit the ball 0.83 on average spaces, and it shows you distance, control, and hook. So I might use this putter, which will give me more distance, but there's other things going on. So there's a bunch of numbers here. These are just basically stat numbers. These are the actual numbers you'll deal with. So when you decide that you're going to hit a ball, so let's say I'm going to hit a ball here from this spot, and I'm trying to get into hole 2. So to do that, there's different directions I can hit the ball. So I can hit the ball along a straight line here and hope that it hooks into hole 2, or I can put 2 here and kind of try to curve the ball, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to count the spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, and I'm going to look for something that's going to hit 5. So this mid here is 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6, 6, 7, 7. It's probably going to go a little too far. This one here, on the other hand, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, is maybe too short. My drivers are too long. My putters are obviously too short. So I'm going to go with this mid one here. No, you know what? I'm going to go with this shorter one because it has more control. That's what the green at the bottom, there's more green. So when this happens, I'm going to roll 2 dice. The blue dice is for distance, and the red die is going to be for control. So I roll the dice, and the blue die rolls a 7, and the red die also rolls a 7. So I look at the club that I used here, and a 7 means I hit it 4 spaces, and I got 0, so it doesn't deviate either way. This one's not going to deviate much at all, but if I had rolled a 12 or a 3, it would deviate. So 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the ball lands there, which is not close enough to the hole, so I'm going to have to use a putter to try to hit it in next time. If it had deviated, it would go 4, then maybe go to the right or the left, which could be a bad thing. If it landed on the hole itself, that's not necessarily into the hole. If you do it and it's in the green area, then yes, it lands and goes in the hole and it's over. If it lands in the red area, it lands there, but then I'll have to use a putter next time to basically just make it go in the hole, or just basically use one more stroke to get it to go in the hole. So that's the basic of the game. The basic of the game is using these 2 12-sided dice and using the different clubs and trying to figure out which club is the best club and forming the directions. You can either hit it straight or you can curve it once. And what's interesting about these tiles here is if you look at the tiles, you'll notice that they're oddly shaped. And the reason for that is if the ball is going from here to here, for example, and it only goes one space, where does it land as it goes here? Well, because this curves outward like that, one space is going to land it here in this spot here. And that curve makes it so that when you hit along the lines, because there's all different directions you can hit in. In fact, those are shown over here, the different directions that you can hit in. So there's 12 different directions to hit in. And some of those are going to go directly along the lines of the hexes. But because the lines are curved, you can know exactly what hex something's going to fall into. Now there's more to the game than that. Obviously there's terrain. You don't want the ball to go in water. You can't hit over trees, some trees. There's hitting downhill or uphill. You can also try to deliberately hit your ball harder. You can do that down here. So I'm going to hit the ball a little bit harder. Maybe I want to, that would have been a good use for me. But when you do that, your green section shrinks on the card, and you also have a higher chance of the ball curving. You can also try to deliberately curve it. You can also try to call your shot, which is something that is not that useful. But that's basically what you're going to do. So you play 12 holes, and you'll take turns. Each person takes turns hitting the ball, and then you start with the person who is farthest from the hole, and then they hit it, and you keep going back. You really don't affect each other, but you are watching, and like I said, the clubs are different for the different players. Lowest score in golf is the winner, and that's how you play. Now, I tell you, I don't understand sometimes the decisions that people make. It's like they're trying to make this game look boring. From the box, to the board, to the pieces, to the cards. It looks like one of those old Avalon Hill statistical-based sports games. And yes, that's fine if you're like numbers, but shouldn't you try to make a game look pretty? Shouldn't you try to make it look less complicated? The game actually isn't that complicated, but it looks complex. And then, of course, the rule book's a mess. You know, they're telling you, here's the basic, here's the expert, here's the advanced rules, and then they kind of mix them up together, and then they add in things that are kind of just a waste of time, in my opinion, like, this is what happens when the wind blows. Well, why? And this tree gives this modifier. Well, then give me, you know, maybe put those modifiers on the board somehow. Make the game, try to make the game as easy as you can for people to play. The game is not that difficult, but like I said, it looks complex and difficult and looks like you're playing a big spreadsheet on the table. Now, that being said, I like the game. Now, there's a caveat. I think that I like statistics and things like that. I like crunching numbers and working with them sometimes, and this is very much like that. I love the set of cards you get. This is definitely one where I always play with each person gets their own set, and I like taking a look through the cards and going, okay, how am I going to hit the ball? How am I going to try to slice or hook the ball on the board? And then which card is best? How to try to modify it? These aren't complex decisions, but I like looking at the cards and going, this one usually hits a 2. There's a chance it will hit a 1, but 2 is what I want, so this is the best card. But maybe I should soften the thing a little bit, or maybe I should try to slice it a little bit this way. I like that. As we played the game, we found that we were getting typical golf scores for people who are good at golf. And I really like the innovative way that these hexagons are, because that's all they are. Hexagons are shaped because it makes it very nice. Which hexagon does it fall in? Well, it definitely falls in this one, and I like that concept of the game. So pretty much I like the game, I just don't like the way the game looks and the way the game's presented, and I think that actually is a knock against the game. So if you like golf and you're looking for a board game, I think this does a good job at bringing it to the table. If you don't like golf, but you like games where maybe you're trying to get something from point A to point B in an efficient way, I think you also like the game. I think there's a limited group of people who will enjoy it. But for those people, if you're like me, it is fun. I found it fascinating to say, wow, there's so many different ways to hit the ball from point A to point B. And then when you miss or mess up and the ball lands here, well, how are we going to get it from there to point B? And the game does rely on luck with these 12-sided dice, but it's not too terribly lucky, right? You're trying to modify it to give yourself the widest range of possibilities. So I felt like 12-sided dice are crazy random, right? But they're nicely percentaged so that you can say, wow, this one gives me a 7 out of 12 chance to get it right where I want it to go. That's my best bet. So this game certainly isn't for everybody, but I had a good time playing it, and hopefully many of you will also. Dice Tower Judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.